Hello, I'm here in Stockholm, Sweden at Propellerheads, and we're here at Marcus, one of the founders, and a friend of mine. How you doing, Marcus?
Fine, thank you. You?
I'm doing all right. Good to see you. And the reason we're here, of course, is the new record program. But before we get into all of that stuff, I just want to let our viewers know about you. I've known you for a long time, and I wonder if you can just kind of give us a hint. How did you get started in this whole software business?
I actually, my first commercial music software was a synth editor for the Ensoniq EPS, which was, I think it was sold in 50 copies or something like that in the 1980 something, 88.
Which company was that for? Or did you
no, it was me and a friend who sold it directly to music stores.
Mm-hmm.
And after that I worked at Steinberg for. That's when I met you.
Absolutely.
That must have been 1990, I think, something like that.
Late 80s, 1990.
And I worked on Cubase for 2 years maybe. After the Steinberg thing, I worked at Clavia.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on the first. Me and Peter worked on the first Nordlead synthesizers.
Right.
And I was mainly programming on the DDRM3 and another synthesizer, the big synthesizers that turned into the Nordlead synthesizer. So I did a monster thing that never got released. And then I started doing Recycle with Ernst.
Right. But what prepared you to be able to work on, like a Nordlead or a product like that? I mean, where did you get your knowledge of?
I started programming the Commodore 64, like all the kids in the 80s.
Right.
That's how I learned programming, and I did that. I did that and did music at the same time. And I was into synthesizers, so I had this old mono analog synthesizer from Yamaha called the CS15.
I remember it.
And then suddenly MIDI came into my life with. So I bought a strange MIDI interface for my Commodore 64 and hooked it to my Casio synthesizer, which was the first multi-timbre synthesizer, the CZ1000. You could actually have 4 different sounds playing at the same time, which was brilliant. Yeah. So I started programming music software then. That's 1980.
Okay. So we're talking about, so you started with Recycle. At that time, that was the first product?
Yes, that's the first product that me and Ernst did.
And I'm curious, where did that inspiration come from? Where did this, because everybody had that problem of trying to line up drum loops which had their own internal rhythm to some other meter, which is a sequencer beating at another rhythm.
Yeah, it was Ernst had this realization that a lot of the ads in Keyboard magazine were about sampling CDs and beats. So we started making a design for a program that could help people do that, use the sampled loops, because they were all set in 120 BPMs or. So we started designing a program that helped you deal with loops, repitch them and cut them in the ends and figure out things. But then Peter, which I was working with previously at Clavia, showed us this algorithm he did on his next computer, which was amazing because it could actually analyze the audio signals and find these transients. But that's we only had that stuff for the last half of the project. In the beginning, it was more about finding out the tempo and repitching it, which wasn't as cool. So that product was actually market research driven.
Right. And then we had Rebirth.
Yeah, that came from an experiment that I did after I worked at Clavia. I wanted to try to make, since I had been working on synthesizers at Clavia, to try to do that on the computer instead, and that you barely could make things work on a computer in 1993. You could have an oscillator and a filter and 2 envelope generators, and then the computer was sort of
done. It was toast. Yeah.
That must have been 1994 or something like that. So I made this crazy rack with little modules to be put in, and they weren't really good. But you could actually make songs from them. You put in different modules and you connect them together and made a song. And we wanted to make our own music software product, and we just what's the smallest thing we can do that you can actually make songs on, which uses synthesis on the computer. And so we took the TB303 because it was the tiniest thing you could do, and drum computer. And another reason we did the TB303 and the drum computer was that we had a latency problem. At that time, the latency from both MIDI and audio on a computer was like 100 milliseconds or something, which wasn't really usable to play live from a MIDI keyboard. So other companies made hardware software solutions to solve that. And we sort of designed our product around the problem and made a step sequencer instead. So that's where it came from.
Right. And I remember you could still, even on a very small computer, a modest Macintosh at the time, you could still get a pretty good sound out of the network application. So the DSP has always been a very big feature of Propellerhead software.
Yeah, that's all Peter. He's the genius, DSP genius. And I think a cool thing about him is that he comes from the hardware side, so he knows all the balancing acts of getting best bang for the buck, performance and sound wise, which is very difficult. So our software is really carefully balanced to be really good sounding, but not waste the CPU cycles. It's nowadays you can make software and you don't have to think too much about CPU usage, but then you can't have that many sizes.
Right. And then we all know about Reason. Reason was a very successful product.
Yeah.
Many users around the world. What's the feeling like? I mean, when you see so many people using it, so many positive things, it must be a very good feeling.
It is. It's. I don't think anybody ever asked me that question before. I don't feel it's my thing anymore. It's somebody else's thing, because I know lots of people that are much better using Reason than I am. So it's I have to do that, but I'm not the master of Reason. The users are. I know a lot of people that understand Reason better than I do. Like Mats, for instance.